Hello everyone, welcome to day 9 of the 30 day of identity fundamentals. So today we'll be discussing about authentication. Authentication, as we have been discussing in our previous sessions also, it is a process of verifying who a user is before granting the access. Right? So let's say you have a user trying to log into any application, let's say Jira. Now, before a user logs into this application, there are different methods where they have to prove or enter a few details. Like one of that method, we use them as username and password. Okay, everyone, you would have logged into any of the platform, you'll put a username and password. Very simple, right? Now this process where you are proving, now what are we doing by putting the username and password? We're actually proving who we are. Similarly, when you have a phone, you have biometrics, right? You do a touch or there'll be a pattern, right? You do a pattern or something like this. Okay, any pattern you use, pattern or pin, these are different forms of authentication. Everywhere you're just answering the question, are you really who you claim to be? So talk about any system. Let's say you're trying to do SSO, right, to any of the application. The first screen that you get is where you're proving who you are. That's authentication in a nutshell. Okay. Now, few things that you have to really prove is, are you really who you claim to be? And it's a process of verifying user identity before granting the access. We'll talk in the next session, which says what happens or how do you even get access once you have proved who you are. So this is the pre-process of you getting the access. So after you get access, there are a lot of access that you can view and then you can play around. But the process in which you have to go through before getting the access is called authentication. Okay, so why it matters? It's definitely a first line of defense in IAM. Every security breach happens here. People doing brute force, DDoS, right? Account, trying to do account takeovers. Everything is being played here. If your authentication system is strong, these things can be avoided. Or your authentication system has good monitoring in place. Let's say there is a constant brute force. Brute force in the sense, we'll definitely discuss in the future sessions, but brute force is like you are constantly trying to enter username and password, bulk username and password. Okay. And now if you have a right monitoring in place, let's say after every 10 attempts of invalid username and password, I'm being prompted in my monitoring system that hey, there is an alert for certain user ID. Okay. And what is the alert? It's invalid username and password. So this is other type of monitorings you can keep in place in order to improve your authentication system. But this is like the first line of defense. It prevents unauthorized access, as I was talking, to systems and data, forms the basis of security models like zero trust. When we say one of the principle of zero trust is least privilege, what do we mean by least privilege? That means you authenticate and give access to people only who needs that access, like the minimum level of access required. If they need it for a day or for let's say 5 hours with let's say user level permission, just give them these many level of access. We don't have to blanket open it, let's say for 30 days with everyone getting admin level access. This is incorrect. But when we say access, that's what the word that I use, right? Access. That means you're allowing someone into a system. This is a system, and you're allowing someone. How? By authentication. This is where authentication comes into picture. Okay. So factors of authentication includes something you know, you have, you are, there are somewhere you are, and something you are, and something you do. These are the main factors. Definitely a lot of things can be combined together, but something you know. What do you know? You know your PIN and your password. Something you have a phone where you're getting a mobile OTP, or you have a token, you have a smart card. Something you are, your own biometrics that defines who you are. Somewhere you are, where are you? In some location, which tracks through your IP address. And something you do, behavioral biometrics, typing patterns, gestures, head, head movements, and those kind of things. So these are the different factors of authentication. Eventually, whatever you're doing, you're simply trying to prove who you are by using PIN, OTP, biometrics, location, behaviors. So just a summary of the different authentication factors. Something you know, passwords and PIN. Something you have, smart cards, token. Something you are, biometrics. Something, somewhere you are, your location. And something you do, your behavioral biometrics analyzes typing patterns and gestures for authentication. So types of authentication, you have single factor, two factor, multi-factor, passwordless. So when you are being presented with a screen, you put your username and password. This is one time you have done, first time. This comes under single factor authentication. Okay. But when it is with an OTP, a 6-digit OTP, there's this second. If it is followed by a biometrics, then it is multi, more than one or two. And when you're doing everything seamless with definitely no username, password, or OTP, but using some methods like biometrics and FIDO and WebAuthn, this is called passwordless. I'll try to cover this in some of the sessions as well, just to give a brief. Okay, so these are the four different types of authentication: single, two, multi, and passwordless. Here are the different authentication methods. Single factor relies solely on passwords for access. Two factors combines passwords with OTP or devices. Multi-factor uses a combination of multiple authentication categories, and passwordless employs biometrics and advanced protocol, FIDO and WebAuthn. So let's take an example of what happens and how does it work in a real-time scenario. Okay. So employee logs into the company portal. What do they do usually first time? Anything, Outlook, your applications like ServiceNow, Confluence. You put your username and password. Even if it is single sign-on, this for the first time you will create that session, you'll have to put the username and password. Then followed by OTP if there is a stronger control, or sometimes it is conditional access, that only from a corporate network you'll be able to use username, and from outside you'll need both. Okay. This is the typical example of proving who you are. Like the first one was something you know, second is you have a MFA with mobile OTP, and somewhere you are, that means conditional access. Okay, let's talk about common risks if these authentication systems are weak. I did discuss initially credential stuffing, uh, and there is a if you're reusing the same password again and again because of phishing, stolen login details, MFA fatigue, where constantly MFA will be sent to your phone, and then, or sometime it could be a constant, sometime it could be uh, like very infrequent. Let's say at night, suddenly you'll be getting a prompt midnight and you just approve it. So approving fraudulent request and lack of adaptive checks, easy bypass for attackers. Okay, so these are some of the risks also, because eventually we should know that whatever system we are building, we are primarily improving the security posture every day. Okay, so interview tips. What is the difference between authentication and authorization? Authentication is proving the identity, authorization is what you can do. We'll discuss this in the next one. What are the factors of authentication? Knowledge, possession, inherence, location, behavior. And use examples, like give examples like Okta, Ping, you have Entra. Use those. And whenever you're explaining, right, always use first, why are you even doing it? Like there should be some reason, like why you're putting this system together. What you did, you have set up an authentication system. What were the details around it, and what were the challenges? Even if you go and watch a movie, right? Imagine a movie where like it started with a very good story, ended with a very good story. Nothing, no challenges in between. It is definitely boring. Similarly, when you're talking to an interview also, you should tell the reason what you did, and also there will be challenges, right? Then it summarizes the whole thing. So that is one of the tip that I would like to cover in this session. Then, as we are doing this quick assignment, pick up two applications you use daily, Gmail, Office. List which authentication factor they use and suggest one improvement to make them more secure. Fine, with this, I wrap up the day 9, and I'll see you in the day 10 video. Thank you very much.